Hello, chefs. For the dish that I decided to do for my five-course meal, that is part of our week 6 project here, I had decided that I was going to do the soup. Um, and with that, it is a acorn squash and baked bread soup. Um, the reason why I chose this, I did this, I actually learned this dish a couple years ago working with Joanne Weir. Um, she's done quite a bit with California cuisine and that, and I thought this recipe was pretty interesting because she used a wine in it. She used a Beaujolais Nouveau. And here I have a Louis Jadon Beaujolais Nouveau. Let's see if we can get that where it isn't so blurry. 2014. I remember when I first got into the culinary world in 87, 88, Beaujolais was the biggest thing where it was a big marketing scheme to get them in armored cars, the first bottle of the vintage and that, and we did Beaujolais menus. And when I worked for Stouffer's and later again at the Hyatt, it was a big deal in the fall. So, and then after a while, there were some bad, I guess, some bad years in between there. So I think some of the luster's been gone on it. I think it's making a comeback from what I've been reading in that. But I decided to use this wine and that. So what I'm going to do here, here's the wine here, and I'm going to taste it. It's got a real nice nose to it. Let's roll around a little bit here. I've always sort of liked this, even though when it wasn't in favor, because it isn't a real heavy wine. It's not like a Merlot in that. From the reading that I did on it, it's done more in the Burgundy region, is where the Jadot vineyards are, and they use Gamay grapes um, to make it here. So it's in between it's not really a Pinot Noir, but it's really good. It's got a nice mild finish to it. Hangs on a good 8, 9, 10 seconds. I'm not so sure this is something that I would pair with like a huge dish or anything, but maybe something like an after, like a cheese tray or something like that. But anyway, so what I decided to do is one of her soup that we did here, and this is what it looks like here. I'm just going to get a good shot of it here. Again, it's acorn squash is what I took, and I boiled a little bit, peeled it and boiled it for a little bit. Then I threw it into the oven, tossed it with some seasonings in that, and then made a soup out of it. I did use the recipe that you should make it with is a vegetable stock. I did use a chicken stock. This is what I had at the house here, and the bread that I got was let me show you again here. The bread that I used was a sourdough bread there. And then what I took is I roasted off some garlic in that, and or actually boiled it, poached it, and then I used that as the spread on the bread. So what you should be able to do is get a good flavor of the soup going along with the bread. It goes along real nicely here. So let's try the soup. I think I added just a little bit too much salt to it, but it's pretty good. Actually, the Beaujolais is what I used to go into the soup while it was cooking the squash. The squash I found after I'd gotten it and cooked it for a bit wasn't really that sweet. Usually it's a little bit sweeter, but I added thyme and sage and that into it. So I'm going to take that, a little piece of the garlic toast, and then a glass of the Beaujolais. I like it. Sort of has a nice berry flavor to it. Again, it's not real heavy. It would go good with the soup. It'd probably go good with really any light vegetable soup, I would think. Maybe even a carrot soup would be good. Parsnip. Parsnip might be a little bit too fragrant, but yeah, it might go along pretty good. Or even like if you had a side of root vegetables or something that you were eating, maybe one of the other dishes that I had on there that I did was a vegetable rustica, which was a grilled vegetable dish that I did for my salad, and that might go good with that too. So this is the dish that I did for the project. I did a acorn squash soup with garlic, toasted garlic bread, and I used the Beaujolais Village Louis Jadot 2014 as the wine to pair it up with. Um, Hopefully, you find this to your exception. I do want to say that this has really gotten me back into trying to do different things pairing with wines and that. And I think that with the Beaujolais, I think there's sort of a stigma of maybe it's not cheap, but the way I don't know, you don't see it as much as you did years ago, at least from my vision of it here. But I think it's a nice French wine. If you don't know a lot about French wines, I think that's a good one to have. I think it's pretty easy. It's not going to offend anybody. It's not going to be too much. So I'm glad I got rediscovered to that. And again, being able to do this recipe again here. This is actually, believe it or not, a recipe that I actually do run at school. I do this for the students as one of their soups. I've also substitute with butternut squash too. Not as much of this type of wine, but I'll just use whatever I have left over from catering. But again, thank you for the time and see you in the future.